The story begins by introducing the Run Candle family, a swordsman clan that rules over half the world. Members of this clan are exceptional talents, and in a world engulfed in this ideology, survival of the fittest, only the strong survive. Our protagonist is Jin Ronyan Candle. As a baby, he selected a sword called the Bisada in his selection ritual, which intrigued the mysterious man from behind him. Jin always thought that his life would be full of success, but life likes to play cruel tricks, and Jin was talentless with the sword and named the weakest member of the Run Candle family. Present day, we see Jin practicing in the courtyard when two of his brothers approach. They ask why he's even training with a wooden sword and not his Baroda and begin mocking our protagonist. Jay ignores the remarks and continues his training. But the brothers demand an answer, and one strikes Chin to the floor. They ask him again why he's training when it's pointless for him since he's garbage with a sword. Another brother steps on his hand and the other boy grabs the book that Jin was using to train. This book is the basic method of swordsmanship. They really wonder if Jin really thinks that he can get somewhere studying this garbage. They begin breaking the wooden sword and book despite Jane's cries. And then they snap and they mock him for even training, when he will always be helpless. Jin is grabbed by the head and asked if he learned those manners from his nanny. Jin continues to struggle, but the boys think it's time to teach him a real lesson. Growing up, it seems that he always had to deal with this kind of harassment from his family. And having almost zero talent with the sword, he always thought if he worked hard enough, maybe his fate would change. Maybe he would have had his family's acknowledgement. One day he strived to be a proud member of the Run Candles. Later that evening, Jin was expelled from the family, and only because of his hard work. The family won't have him killed, and I thought my parents were mean. What they'll. At the age of 23, Jin was left to fend for himself with no destination. But he did end up finding a new master, and this is where he learned that he did, after all, have talent, a talent for magic. You see, magic was forbidden in the swordsman clan. But in 3 years, Jin honed his abilities and learned how to better control his mana. As he's studying, he's engulfed by shadows and he's trying to understand what's going on. But a figure introduces itself as Soldier, the Master of Shadows. Jin Run Candle as the God of Shadows. Allow me to propose a contract. With this contract, not only will you be able to use spiritual powers but also nullify all curses, and this mysterious entity also noticed that Jin has been cursed since a very young age due to a small curse that I see upon you. You're unable to draw your full potential. This revelation shocks Jin. It's a curse called Belated Illusion, who represses one's talent for the sword. No wonder Jin's life has been such a burden, especially coming from the Run Candle family. Jin finally understands why his life has been so miserable. This must be why the Lord of Shadows was drawn to him from this moment onward. No curse can harm him, and the only thing left for him to do is to become the world's greatest magical swordsman. The Lord of Shadows smiles and will be watching with pleasure. And Jin exits the mysterious shadowy cocoon, and he absorbs all the information that he's just received and gets a spark of determination. He grips his sword and goes outside to test his new skills, and it's just as Soldier, it said. When Jin grabbed his sword, it was a brand new feeling. It felt like an extension of his arm. When he swings his sword, he also adds magic to it, making him much stronger than before. Now the weakest man from Room Candle is no more, and all of his hard work and torture will be coming too light. I don't know if his joy is going to last too long, because overlooking our protagonist is 3 knights, which I assume are mercenaries watching him train from the hill above. Some time passes and we see a large explosion occur, and our protagonist is stuck under some rubble, calling out to anyone. Soldier, are you there? Jin questions why his body feels so heavy, but someone approaches. Who's there? Jin wonders. Is this really the end of his life, dying in his sleep before he can even accomplish anything? Why was he even given a second chance? Jin wakes up with some smaller looking arms and looks around to see members of his clan. He was so sure that he just died, but now he's being greeted by his old nanny Gilly. He's looking through the field of swords and sees the one he picked. Baryata. Ah, this must be the selection ritual. Jin has returned to the past as a 1-year-old baby in his past life. He grabbed his sword by accident, and the crowd is excited to see what the new young lord would grab, but this time Jin isn't picking it out of pure luck. He's picking it because he wants to. A similar response is felt throughout the crowd. They order to move the child to Storm Castle, and 6 years later we see Jin struggling to reach some books. He's been in this castle for 6 years, and following what happened in his past life, he's gonna be here until he's 10. It gets boring, but our hero can't waste any time. All of a sudden, a dead bird is thrown into the room. Only one person comes to mind, his 2 bully brothers. These Bezos look towards Jim and it seems their torment began at a young age. The first brother, Daytona Run Candle, is 9 years old and curses that the maid found the murder before him. He's accompanied by his twin brother Hayden. They wanted to use this as a gift at T-Jin, but this seems like a pretty cruel joke for some 9-year-olds. Later in life, these two boys end up having a reputation as murderers. After becoming flag bearers, they killed an innocent bird just to mess with Jin. They tell Jin not to cry, the bird was ugly anyways. They continue on saying that who the hell does Jin think he is anyways? Just because he chose the sort of patriarchy doesn't mean he's too good to talk to us twins, right? Jin mutters somewheres under his breath and Haytona tells him that he can't hear him as he draws back a punch. But this time Jin isn't a pushover. He grabs Saito's hand before he can do anything and tells him to shut the hell up and hits him with an uppercut to the jaw. The boy is furious, but Jin keeps battering him. This is for all the stress and torture that he had to deal with for years. He tells the boys that it will be better for them not to step into Jin's sight. An older man comes into the room and asks what happened. Jin says he doesn't know. He walked in and it seems to boiler fighting and both collapsed. The man sees through this, however, and thinks that it's expected from the youngest Run Candle. He's brutal indeed. He grabs the boys to take them to the doctor, but Jin tells the man whose name is Khan they have somewhere else to be. Jin signals him to follow. They place the two boys next to a tree outside in the rain. Jin buries the dead bird and leaves the two boys by its side. Khan wonders why Jin is doing this. The rain won't let up and the storm will only get stronger. Jin tells the man that his two brothers need to learn the consequences of their actions. Khan grits his teeth but respects the wishes of the young master. Khan wonders what kind of energy he's feeling from Jin. It wasn't aura, perhaps it was magic. If that's the case, this wasn't a simple fight between brothers. He needs to report this to the patriarch right away. He tells one of the attendants to bring him a horse. Jin expected this, however, as he watches Khan from an upstairs window. Khan is the kid's guardian knight, but also serves as a watchdog for the family. Jin's power looks like man, not to someone like Khan, so there's no way he would keep quiet about this. The darkness around Jin's hand is spiritual power and the proof of the contract between Jin and Sold. But thanks to this, he knows that even in this life, his contract is still valid. In addition, he still has immunity to curses, which makes him even more powerful this time around. Now, the weakening of Run Candle is no more. His life is going to be very different than it was before. The only thing left to do is meet his father. The scene shifts to Khan delivering this message to the patriarch. He tells Khan to assemble the knights he is going to meet the youngest. They assemble the 7 knights of Run Candle and around 200 knights under that for the journey. Is this not a little excessive for meeting a child? I don't know. We see a shot of all these different characters which I'm excited to learn about. Led by an absolutely savage-looking patriarch with long white hair and a menacing gaze. One of the knights asks her brother Dipus if he knows why they were summoned. She asked Luna as well, but she didn't seem to know anything. This is Mary Run Candle. She stretches her arms and sighs. Right before this, she was dealing with some annoying magicians. Deepus tries to understand the situation and concludes that maybe they're going to see the youngest brother G. It clicks with Mary too, since it's the same brother that chose the patriarch's sword in the selection ritual. But is it really necessary? She wonders. It's hard to tell what their father is thinking. Luna approaches and calls for the two. Back at Storm Castle, Jin is being prepared by Jilly for his master's arrival. Jin thinks that Khan's personality wouldn't let him assume that he used magic right away. Rather, he just told the patriarch of what he saw. The youngest son is using a strange power, and now the father is coming to see it for himself, and also to see if Jin will be the future of the clan. The patriarch arrives in the soldier's bow. He calls for the Tone of Twins and he sits on the throne and asks them if they had a fight with Jin. What were your mistakes? In this quarrel, the two boys plead that they did nothing wrong and Jin hit them first with some kind of weird ability. It wasn't aura, so maybe it was magic. The two boys tried to use this lie to their advantage, since magic is taboo. Mary agrees that if Jin did use magic, then they need to interrogate him. But the father asks the group to be quiet. He tells the boys to engrave this into their hearts. They won't never survive in Run Candle like that. Now the father brings Jin in as he passes the boys who have a stressed expression. Jin's father is Siren Run Candle, and he is the strongest yet coldest man that he has ever known. The strongest swordsman of this era. A man who has reached the level of demigod, the Genesis Knight. He was once a man, but ever since he reached this level, it's almost like he lost all of his emotions, tying him to his humanity, and has become obsessed with the clan's prosperity in his past life. Someone like Jin who didn't have any skills was worthless in his eyes. However, This time it's different. Jin enters the room and bows towards his father, and Siren asks why he addressed him as patriarch and not his father. Jin says that it's only right to call him that since he brought all of his troops here to see him. Luna approves of this answer, but Siren tells Jin that he came here for several reasons, and to address him as father he asks Jin what mistake his brothers made in their fight, and Jin answers revenge in this family. When someone is punished, they get the same crime that they committed. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. Siren asks for everyone to leave the room except Jin. All of the attendants wonder if this means that Jin has passed the test. A1. Ozone with the father Ha. He sent everyone away because the Toner brothers told him that Jin has a special power, and as he knows magic is strictly forbidden, because one who learns magic can never reach their true potential on swordsmanship. What is the power you hold, Jin? If it is magic, you won't get away with it. Jin thinks to himself that now his father knows of his secret powers, and it's going to be hard to get away from this subject. He doesn't tell him about Soldi, but rather pretends he also doesn't know what it is, but it's neither magic nor aura. And Jin wonders what to call it himself, and ignites a dark ball of fire in his hand, and asks the patriarch to name it himself. Siren is shocked this is the power of the first patriarch. Siren knows that this is spiritual power. He thinks that the spirit of Bariata lives inside of Jin, so maybe he is fit to be the future patriarch. Jin asks his father what to name it, but Siren responds saying that this is the power of Soldier, the god of shadows. Jin pretends not to know who that is, and Siren continues with his explanation. Soldier made a contract with the first patriarch, Sir Tyr, and is a god who has been with the brew candles since the birth of the house. But after Sir Tamar's passing, Soldier vanished and hasn't reappeared since. Siren didn't know the reason, but Soldier has returned inside of Jin. Jin asks his father if Soldier is stronger than he is. He thinks on it for a moment, and he's never fought a god before, so he doesn't know. Jin smirks and thinks just because Siren has never fought a god, he doesn't know if he can take one definitely response from the world's strongest swordsman. Siren tells his son that it was a good question and pats him over the head. His question will be another great topic for him. Siren is happy he came to visit Jin today. He asks him how he plans to use his newfound power, and Jenin responds saying he will use it for the clan. Siren just laughs. What an amazing lie, you beat your brothers and left them in the storm. If you say you want to use this power for the clan, answer honestly. Jin yields and tells him that he wants to use his power for himself. Siren appreciates the honesty and likes the answer. From now on he will be watching him as Siren leaves. Join's knees shake after standing in front of this beast of a man, but he smiles. He's finally received his father's blessing. All he hoped was for to be able to use his powers. But now even his father has high hopes for his improvement. Not even Jin could have expected it to go that well. He clenches his fist and things are finally changing for the better outside the castle. Before the troops leave, Mary hands her little brother Jin a gift. She handset the G and tells him to eat it well, and tells the boy to get strong fast. Jin wonders why Mary is interested in him as well. He opens the package and is surprised to see a phoenix heart. Giving this to a 7-year-old is unheard of. Sister Mary isn't insane. She has the nickname Stormwind Mary, but also has another secret name, the Southern Region's Maid Womanman. He now understands why a battle-hungry maniac would give him something like this. She is basically saying to grow up and fight me. If this heart is eaten at a young age, one can receive resistance to fire and an increased growth rate. And now Jin thinks about it. A phoenix heart was also needed for 6-star magicians to safely summon a phoenix. Maybe in this life he'll be able to summon one. Gilly approaches the young master and hands him a bowl of soup. But before he goes to eat, he's interrupted by the two twins from before and asks them what they want and to stop staring at his food. They say that he looks pretty lonely eating by himself, and Gilly is holding a huge pot. Jen sees through the boys and asks them if they want to eat. They both nod, and Jenin tells them that he will let them eat if they do him one small favor. We now see the two digging in a cave, wondering why the hell Jin sent them down here. Nothing's here. The soup is pretty good, so maybe it'll be worth it. They think if anyone gets in trouble for this, it's going to be G. But now the two boys fear the youngest. Under the rumble, we see a testing chamber and a piece of rock hits, a part of this futuristic-looking machine. Inside the circular tank is a man suspended with the same dark shadows that are swirling around Jin. The two boys return to the room in hopes to eat some soup. They look incredibly tired from their endeavor, and JN welcomes them back and tells them that they got back faster than he expected. He tells the boys that he left them their food over there, but to the twins' surprise, Jen only left them 2 spoonfuls. That's messed up, man, but it's also pretty funny. He still didn't forgive them for what they did to him in his past life, and they're in despair and ask Jin what kind of joke this is. Jin says that they only asked him to share, or they never said how much they wanted, but he shared just as he promised. The scene shifts and we see Jin venturing out in the rain. He goes to check on the boys' jobs, not trusting if they did exactly what he wanted, but it turns out it did just perfectly. He pats the rock that's blocking his way and thinks that a Unatar spell should be enough. It's time for Jin to let out some stress, because he's building up mana all this time and had nothing to use it on. He places both hands on the rock and bursts out green lights erupting from a magical circle. He is pleased and finds behind the rock is the Run Candle's secret library. This was a place he couldn't come to in his previous life, and it feels strange to even stand here. Jin remembers his big brother saying that there is a special activation code. A child of Run Candle has come to console Morrican. The door opens and Jin enters. This place holds a large collection of secret tomes that the Rune Candle clan has collected over the last 1,000 years. Entry has only permitted the flagbearers of Run Candle in his past life. His big brother only told him this phrase because he never thought that Jin would ever be able to enter. But now it's proven quite useful. He enters the room and sees the man in the test tube from the end of the previous chapter. Who is this? He thinks this guy has scales. Is he even human? Jin reaches towards the glass and he wonders what he's doing here, but then remembers the activation phrase a child of Run Candle has come to console Moroccan. Is this the Black Dragon Merton? Jin has heard that. Marion lost to the first patriarch and fell into a coma to think that the legend is actually real, but now is not the time to sightseers. He needs to find those secret homes. He goes into the next room and starts searching through the ancient text, and he finds a tome that he's looking for from the famous Sword Master's clan. He opens the book and thinks that this topic is hard to understand, since it's 3-star theory. Jin wants to take it with him but knows that he's going to get caught. So he busts out his own book and will do the tedious task of copying everything that he thinks is useful. Jin is studying these books for a couple days, and one evening back inside the library, someone enters the room behind him asking who he is. Morika, what is he doing awake? Jin doesn't remember anything about him waking up. Jin needs to calm down. Murake is the clan's guardian. If he acts like a child, he might go easy on him. Jin shakily gets some words out and greets the clan's guardian. Murake is enraged at these words. Did Jin just call him a guardian? Why do these Run Candle bastards call him a guardian? How dare they teach that to people? Mara is furious but can't take his anger out on a helpless boy. He sighs in disbelief and kneels down. He only got up because he smelled something nice for the first time in a while, but it turns out it's just a little brat. He sniffs further and asks Jin why he smells spiritual energy on him. Jin pretends not to know, and Murata says that even though he's been sleeping for 1,000 years, he will always remember the dense smell of spiritual energy. It's something that only contractors like Tamar would have. Jin Filing understands that he's the reason Murake woke up. However, the dragon doesn't believe that it's coming from the child and searches the room. Jin laughs at this situation and thinks maybe it's time to test his abilities. He calls Merton over and asks him if he's talking about this and lights a dark flame around his hands. Murake is shocked, and Jin says that his father told him that this is the power of Solder. Murata is perplexed and asked if Solder is joking. He can't be serious. The promised 1,000-year contractor is this Phipps squeak. The two look at each other with an awkward silence, but Muricha tells Jin that he made a promise to solder it. He has to help Jin. According to that promise, it's a little hard for a kid to understand. Murata introduces himself formally as Solderet's proxy and friend and the last descendant of the first beings of Shadow. Merton transforms into his true form, and according to a 1,000-year promise starting today, he will be with me. Jin questions Megan, asks for the name of Solderet's contractor, and Jin introduces himself as the 13th child of Run Candle and shakes the dragon's claw. Miraka was once a menacing black dragon, but long ago he was defeated by Tamar Fun Candle, and after his castle fell, Mira Khan went into a deep sleep. But that isn't the truth. Jin finds those who make contracts with gods do so with guardian dragons. Little was ever known in the guardian dragon of Soul. Does this mean that Merriman will be Jin's guardian dragon as well? He opens the door into the library and hands the dragon some snacks. He wants to extract as much information out of him as he can, and it would be like this for many weeks. The only fact that he comes to find about this dragon is his fetish for strawberry pie. Muay Ka asks Jin what he does down in the library, and Jin responds telling him that he transcribed all the books that he can't take out. Maron is impressed with his work ethic, But in the Run Candle family, it's survival of the fittest. So there's no choice. Jin thinks to himself how he would stack up to Tamar after being compared to him. But Merrick ejects, saying that man wouldn't understand a single line in these books. At Jin's age, however, he didn't read books but still fought well. You may have potential, but you're definitely not as good as tomorrow. This is a shocking revelation to our hero. Jin asks if he can ever be as strong as tomorrow. Maraka just pats his head, saying no, but not to focus on that. Just train hard and the rest will fall into place. And maybe one day you can even surpass him. Jin wonders if that's even possible. Lira responds, asking if he knows Soldierette's nickname. Infinite Soet's power has no limit. Therefore, Jin has no limit, and it's up to him to see the heights of his power that he wants to achieve and to make him feel better. Mirakan will teach him some moves. The first lesson will be shadow energy liberation. This is the first lesson in manipulating shadow energy. This type of power can be very dangerous if not used properly. First, you need to learn to open your mana. Jin pretends to be confused, but in reality he has done this in his past life. Shadow energy liberation is about opening and moving mana. One must be able to do these two things well. Jin, you'll need to practice this for about 2 to 3 years before you can get the hang of it. 2 to 3 years. That's a way too long for our boy, as he just straight up cheat codes in front of the dragon. Jin presents a Rangan-looking mana circle to the dragon, which makes his hair stand up in sheer shock. How can a 9-year-old boy master mana manipulation in this short amount of time? He wonders when he was able to do that. And Jin said he always felt good with manipulating mana. Murata thinks that this might really be a genius. Okay, it's time for a real lesson. Shadow energy liberation is taking power from all the shadows in Soldis domain, since the god is the owner of all the shadows in the world. And since Jin is the god's contractor, that means he can be the owner of all the shadows in the world, as well as they begin to envelop his figure. In this absolute sick panel, the shadows fade and Marion asks how it felt. Jin is pleasantly surprised at his newfound power, and the scene shifts to Lady Luna, whooping some dinoas, and one of her soldiers informs her that only a couple areas remain into the completion of their mission. She tells her soldiers to take a break and asks another question. What do 9-year-old boys like? Looks like she's preparing a gift for our young prodigy. We time skip to about 6 months later, and the twins have left the castle in Gilly, and the other attendants are celebrating Jin's 9th birthday. Jen tells her to hand everyone some cake, but all of a sudden Khan enters the room. He apologizes for the interruption, but behind him is Luna, and she approaches and cook aside here. This is how you do a strong female character. She looks badass. Luna visits the young lord, which gives him a slight surprise. You see, Luna is the Run Candle's first flagbearer and 9-star knight, and the firstborn of the 13 siblings, and nicknamed the White Whale. Despite being the strongest, however, she has no interest in taking over the family, and has distanced herself from the power struggle and usually only moves alone. She has never shown any interest in her family members, and in Jin's past life, it may be more appropriate to call them strangers. Yet now his sister came to visit him for his 9th birthday. Jin wonders if something happened. Maybe he was found out for sneaking into the library. Jin apologizes, saying that if he had known that she was going to come, he would have prepared. Ball Luna just smiles and pats him on the head. There's no need to make an announcement. She just wanted to come see her baby brother. She grips Jin and wonders if he's sick, but he responds saying that he's just a little nervous. It is his first time seeing her up close. Luna realizes that Run Candle's siblings typically put each other in check, so love is usually a disguise for something more devious. She tightens her grip at this backwards family, cursing them for polluting the mind of a child. She apologizes to Jin for not understanding that situation. She takes one knee and holds Jin's hand and asks to speak with him in private. Jin doesn't think the situation is too bad and agrees. The panel shifts to this conversation, and Luna says the reason she came here is because she has something to tell him. When father visited her last, he told her about Jin's behavior, and it garnered the attention of all the siblings. So the moment he leaves Storm Castle, all of their eyes will be on him. She grips Jin's hand and prays that in his sibling rivalry, he won't lose his own happiness, and wants him not to suffer from this family tradition. It clicks inside Jin's mind why Luna is acting this way both now and in his past life. She never wanted to take part in this. She never warned him before. Maybe because he wasn't worth speaking to, or he wasn't seen as competition. He thanks Luna for her words, but Jin has no intention of sitting on the sidelines. He is going to be the next patriarch. Luna assures him that she is serious, and not only because he will compete against her, but Jin stops her and says he knows what it's like. He's already dealt with the assassination attempt. This shocks Luna. She is now enraged and demands to know who would dare harm her brother inside Storm Castle. She urges Jim to tell her, but he can't since he doesn't even know. But he reassures her that he is fine and thanks Luna for letting him know that not all of his siblings are after him. She brings Jin close and hugs him. She is saddened by the fact that this young boy is already involved in the power struggle. Jin is still so surprised at the famous white whale with such a tender-hearted person. She changes the conversation, and today is his birthday. After all, they shouldn't be talking about such things. She actually came here to give him a gift. What gift? Jin wonders. Luna pulls out a necklace from her jacket and puts it around our boy and tells him that if there's ever a time where the situation is more than he can handle, break the blue gem in the necklace. Wherever Jin is, Luna will come to him. Please remember to have it on you at all times. Happy birthday. Gil is happy that our boy is finally getting some family love and gives Luna some cake. But shortly after she takes her leave, Chen goes back into the library and Muraka instantly asks him who gave him that necklace. Whoever it was must really love you. Jin is further confused, but Marahan explains that that is an artifact of a Demon King organ for a 1,000 years people were risking their lives to get something like this. Chin wonders if it's really that amazing, and Maricha continues. It gives the wearer resistance to magic at 5 stars and below and enhances one's magical abilities. He also heard that it has some summoning abilities in it. Jen praises the dragon for knowing so much, but he was alive in the same period it was made, so it's only natural. Jin tells the dragon that his eldest sister came here to visit, but he already sensed her energy, and by that logic she probably sensed Tamorican's as well. Jun can only hope that Luna will keep his secret and hands Mirakan some cake. The dragon shakes it off, saying that anyone who would give him a necklace like this most likely means that they are on his side and Jin can trust her. Mirka is loving the cake, and we switch to Luna leaving the castle. She vows to always be on Jin's side and will pretend not to know what he's up to. Bonus points for Big Side. It seems Jin's time in Stormcast wasn't a waste after all. He gained his father's approval, a phoenix heart, and a good connection with Luna. And to top it all, met the guardian dragon. Merton. Some time passes and now Jin is 10 years old, and it's about time that he leaves Storm Castle. Jin is seen training hand-to-hand combat with Khan, and as he's training our hero and exchanging a few blows, he can tell why the patriarch is so interested in him and all his years of training. He has never felt the way he is right now. It feels like he's the one being examined rather than doing the examining. He bows towards Jim and thanks him and tells him that it's been an honor training him. But now, there isn't much to learn at Storm Castle, but he'll try his best in the coming sessions up until the moment that Jin leaves. Some time passes and Jin is putting his finger over a candle, testing his fire existence. It seems that the phoenix heart is taking effect. He notes that the fire just feels like warm water. Jilly is happy that Mary's gift has been put to good use, and it's also her first time seeing what a phoenix heart can do. Jen notes that at this stage he's absorbed at least half of the phoenix heart, so in a couple years he'll be able to utilize its full power. Jilly prepares Jin's things for his departure and picks up 2 books asking where to pack them. She says, is a final gift. She will prepare some strawberry pie, and this makes Jin remember something. It seems like he forgot about Murakan for a sec. He goes down to the library to find him, and Jin wonders how Music K will still accompany him after he has left Stormcastle. Mirakan just scoffs at this, saying that he is a legendary black dragon. It's gone to work out no matter how weakened he has become. He can follow Jin pretty easily, shouldn't be a problem. This is the first time Jin has heard that Marion is actually weakened, but he continues on saying that how could he be 100% after sleeping for a 1,000 years. Moran will get stronger as Jin does, since he is his guardian dragon after all. So go ahead and become a strong magical swordsman. Swordsman. Jin remembers that Soldier at once told him that the Run Candle family was once comprised of magical swordsmen, and the first patriarch being the strongest of them all. But there was a reason why the family decided to abandon magic. It was an event from a 1,000 years ago. Marconi ponders if he even needs to hide. If he just shows up as the guardian, maybe Jin's popularity will grow. But surely, the story of Marion is too old people to get behind 100%. So he's just gonna have to hide. Well, Jen asks the dragon what about the test tube he was found in. Someone is going to be curious if he's not there. But Marion had a plan for that as well. He's going to use some Draconess magic to make a duplicate to sit inside the tube. Jin keeps the questions going, and what if the duplicate is found out? But all of these questions seem to just anger Merton. He is the shadow dragon. It's best not to underestimate him, but he is not at full strength, so holding a duplicate will be difficult over a long time. So he's gonna try his best to keep it still until Jin gets older. Jimmy thanks him for his effort and presents him a special present, Gilly strawberry pie with a bottle of wine that he stole. Maraha is so excited for his gift and thanks Jin, but Jin just warns him not to get too drunk and make a weird duplicate. Murata wants to find out the mastermind behind the cake and wants to meet Gil himself, but Jin isn't too fond of that idea. The scene shifts. Gilly is buttoning Jin's coat and giving him some advice. From here on out his life is going to get harder and she wishes him the best of luck. And she will always be here if he needs anything. 2 nights Jerome and Holtz will serve as escorts to the young lord, and in the year 1790 on October 30, the Jin left Storm Castle and is headed to the main house, the Garden of Swords. During the journey, Jin notices that the snow is building up fast. That's going to have to cause the group to wait it out in a nearby village, and all of a sudden a clash of blades is heard. It's an ambush. Gilly quickly grabs Jin, telling the boy not to worry, but I think Jin is like 3 times stronger than you. Gilly, but I do love the mom. Vibes German. Holtz are 7-star knights and they're surrounded by around 20 warriors and magicians. Gillis shows him that no one among the forces seems to be 7 stars. But Jin gets a realization. Not a single knight of Runcandle would ever leave a child's side. Something is off. He tells Gilly that they need to leave the carriage now since neither of them are by his side. It either means they are fakes or trars. Something might be wrong with the carriage as well. Gilly bites her lip, and as a servant of Runcandle, she vows to protect them and pulls out some Wolverine-type claws. And I immediately am gonna take back what I said. Jinin might not be stronger, holy shit. With a quick flurry, she breaks out of the carriage with Jin in her arms and tries to evade the pursuers. She worries that she will be punished for this turn of events. But Jin tells her that this is not the time to be worrying about stuff like that and instructs her to go towards the 2 knights. There's something he needs to check. The ones attacking could be their allies if the ambushes were aiming for him. Then as soon as he left the carriage, it would have been their top priority to kill him, yet no one is giving chase. We shift back to the scene and a red-haired man is ordering his men to look for the young master. And just as Jin thought, Gil recognizes the emblem of the Black Beast. It's the Lida clan, a group of mages from Middle, and the Black King mercenaries. They are allies of Runcandle. They find Jin and Gilly, and the red-haired man introduces himself as the vice-captain of the 3rd Corps of the Black King mercenaries. Their mission is to rescue Jin. The 2 knights from before are enraged seeing Jin with an enemy, but it seems they were fakes all along. No 7-star knights would struggle with this competition. Gilly demands to know who these men are, but Jerome smiles. He would never tell a Runcandle dog anything. She asks Jin on what they should do, and he calmly orders her to kill one and remove the arm of another and bring the survivor to him. And like a mad animal, Gilly rushes in with death looming in her eyes. She slices up Jerome with ease and owns in on the remaining fake knight, and with a quick slash, she removes one of his arms. Then she slices at his chest, giving him a big wound. He tries to retaliate, but is no match for Gilly and is stomped on the chest, knocking him out. She drags him by the hair to Jin and informs the man to become a nanny of the Runcandles. You need to be at least a 7-star martial artist. And I definitely take back what I said. Gilly is a beast for old, though Jan notes that they seriously wanted to assassinate him. They should have brought at least 3 to 4 8-star knights. The man lashes out, saying that this is just a warning. The era of Runcandles is coming to an end. Jin actually says that he would like that too. The end of the Rune Candle era and the beginning of the Jin running Candle era, and that's some savage-ass shit. Even the vice-captain is taken aback by these words. The man with his last breath yells, "Glory to the great Zip Zip." This is the clan of magicians that rules over the other half of the world that directly opposes the Rune Candle family. We now get some backstory on the event that led to the Rune Candle family banning magic. In that event, 1,000 years ago when the first patriarch died, the Zip Fells forced a covenant that forbid the Runcandles from using magic, and due to this all the Runcandles had their magical abilities sealed. The Zip Fells are their mortal enemies, and Jin was wondering who would be this bold, but everything begins to make sense. Jen just tells Gilly to get rid of him somewhere nearby. He isn't even worth questioning. Jen keeps pondering on the situation while the knight is screaming to be killed already. It's only natural for the clan's mortal enemy to try something like this, but it doesn't align with their normal actions. It might be a separate group of extremists, but it also isn't easy to fool a 7-star master like Gilly either. Jin thinks from his past life an individual comes to mind that we are not yet introduced to. Gilly returns to Jin after completing her task, and Jin calmly thanks her. He calls her the vice captain and thanks him as well for the distraction. If not for him, who knows what could have happened. He will make sure to tell the patriarch of his deed and make sure that he's compensated. The vice captain is taken aback by the sheer poise of this 10-year-old boy, who by the way is his first time leaving Storm Castle. How is he so calm in this hectic situation? And the words he spoke earlier don't seem to be just for show. He breaks a sweat and tells his men to be on guard duty until they reach the gate, and even tells them not to curse in front of the young lord. The soldiers are very confused in the order, but I guess they didn't see the murderous 10-year-old just now. Gilly signals a group to leave, and the vice captain questions if it's truly all right to leave the fake bodies there. Jen says that it will make a good example for those who want to follow. Gilly informs Jin that the next village is about a 2 to 3 hour walk, and Jin adds that he did not think the situation was her fault, even noting that Khan, a 9-star knight, was also fooled. But even after these words, Gilly still apologizes, and Jing just thinks to himself that she will never change a ruined candle. Nanny shares the fate of the child that she's in charge of in Jin's past life, because he was looked down upon. Gilly was also looked down upon, but she never took her anger out on Jin. Not even once, and even to the day he was exiled, she was still by his side and even apologized then that she couldn't serve him properly. Jian doesn't want her to have the same attitude and constantly bow her head down. He wants her to toughen up as she is apologizing, ready to accept any punishment. Jin yells at her that it wasn't her fault and this is in order to get over it. She is the only guardian he has right now, and if she continues to get caught up on this matter, she cannot focus on the tasks ahead. Don't make me say it again, Jin says, scolding. She agrees and thinks to herself how much the young master really cares for her. She doesn't want to cause him any more trouble. She gets a gust of determination and is ready to do her best. The group arrives at an inn in the next village, and as the vice captain is checking them in, Jin starts to think on the situation. He dives deeper into the man that he thinks is involved, the transformer Bayard. Gaston transformation is a dragon skill, but not all of them can transform perfectly. But Bord has mastered this skill, and in Jan's past life he has committed many crimes using this skill, bringing unrest into the world. If he's really involved, then the situation will become very bothersome. But for now, Jin can't notice anything too out of the ordinary in his past life. He also recalls that he got arrested by the time he was 20, so he has about 10 years to make him an ally if he really wants to. But he wonders if he should, since he's currently pointing his blade at him. He needs to investigate the matter further before taking any actions. But after such a long day, Jin seems to be quite tired and he ends up falling asleep on the bed. Gilly smiles and goes to continue her duties. Some passes, and as Jin is waking up from his nap, he notices a strange cat making noises outside the window, who gets startled once he has noticed Jin has lost for words and thinks that this can't be who he thinks it is. He recalls Mukhan's words that he will disguise himself and follow closely. He yells at the black dragon for his horrible skills, which he apologizes for, and Jin wonders why he turned into a cat of all things. The two start arguing and Merton trips over a floorboard and smacks his head on a wall. Yeah, legendary dragon outright. Gilly hears the commotion and goes to see what's going on. She sees Murakan grabbing his head from the steep fall and assumes he's after the young lord and prepares her murderous claws to kill him. She goes on top of him, ready to interrogate him, but Jin intervenes. But before he can say anything, Murano remembers her name, Killy. This is a strawberry princess who has made him all of those delicious cakes. He grabs her hand and tries to raise her up, but she's just hella confused. Jin just sighs in disbelief at the current. Jin formally introduces Murakan as the guardian black dragon, and Gilly, after learning his identity, immediately changes her tone. But Murake is still in love with his strawberry princess. Gilly bows, and as a loyal servant she didn't mean any disrespect to the guardian, but Muraka gladly forgives her. She still questions why she's being called by that weird nickname, but Murakan tells her that she is the mastermind behind all those amazing pastries. She immediately understands that Jin was taking all the pies and cakes that she made down to Marion. Jin breaks down the full situation, and Gilly's ecstatic for him as his nanny. She knew he was gifted, but to have the guardian black dragon supporting him is truly surprising. Jin tells her to keep his secret for the time being, and she agrees, but asks about the noise that she heard earlier. Was this Mihai undo his transformation? But she was surprised to find out that this noise was from him just falling on his face, and wonders if it's really Oka to trust him. Some time passes and the group arrives at the Middle Kingdom transfer gate. Jill thanks the vice captain for his service, and he in turn is excited to see the growth of the youngest run candle. He has a question for Gilly. Why would someone with great skill like her become a nanny for a young wound candle? She looks back at him saying the reason isn't worth bringing up. Oh, Jilly. Backstory ? The vice captain accepts this answer and fits farewell. Jinan and Jilly approach the front desk this transportation hub and the man asks them for ID. She pulls out a dagger with the ruined candle insignia, and the man immediately escorts them to the special seating area. This place seems to use magic to transport people to different locations. Jin and Gil sit and talk about the situation with Marion. Jin tells her not to worry about it too much, he will do his best to hide it. But out of the corner of his eye, he spots a golden dragon emblem, which is the marking of a member from the Zip clan. This boy with 2 bodyguards sits down right across from Jim. He scoffs at meeting such lowliss in a place like this, but immediately it's attracted to Murakon's cat. But the cat immediately scratches his hand. Bonus points from. He screams but doesn't let his bodyguards interfere. It is just a cat after all, because it wouldn't be wise to plot a sword in front of a run candle. Jin just sits there after all these taunts, just casually reading his book. And the young boy can't help a compliment Jin's level-headedness. He stands up and properly introduces himself as Baron Zeipels and apologizes for his earlier behavior. The name immediately resonates with Jin. This boy would grow up to be a genius mage, and someone as a fellow magician like Jin would look up to after he was exiled. He's excited that he got to meet him as kids and tells Baran that he's happy he's not a complete fool, and he was also testing him. Bartek has a nervous sweat and asks on what he means. Butch elaborates that if his guards did pull their swords, he might have been wandering around this place without any escorts. And maybe he lost a finger or two. Baron nervously just tries to laugh us off, but Jin just gives him a cold stare, telling the boy that he isn't joking. Baring is shook but offers a piece of advice and tells him not to do this to another member of the Zip clan. It might cause some unwanted trouble, and Jin just asks the boy if he really thinks their fathers would move around their armies just because of 2 kids fighting. Farron thinks on this a bit and agrees with Jin it would probably just end with compensation of some sort. He thanks him since it taught him something new and tells Jin he will pay him for that later. Jin, however, is not interested in being paid later and wants to be paid right now. Baron is excited to hear what this boy could truly want, but is literally turned to stone when Jin just says as payment, just shut up for the rest of the trip. Breda thinks to himself that Jin will be an interesting man in a few years, and if it wasn't for their clans, he wanted him to be his friend, but gets even more interested in the idea that Jin could be his eternal rival, which makes one of his bodyguards cringe. Jin wonders why he's acting like this after being threatened. Something must be wrong with the Zip fells. The transportation gate arrives and some mysterious blue energy flows from the ceiling before the 2 vanish. Brendan tells Jin that they should meet again, but Jin just tries to keep his Sashuk personality. Jan is teleported in a butler. Pedro was awaiting his arrival, and just like that, our protagonist arrive at the Garden of Swords. We get a little bit more knowledge of this place from the story, and apparently only the people with great achievements that contributed to the Run Candle name are allowed the opportunity to put their swords on display in this garden. It was once Jin's wish to have his sword put here when he died, but that was when he was weak. He wasn't as perceptive or cunning, and thought he could get his dreams just by working hard. But this time he won't make the same mistakes living in this hell. Holil Jin up to Siren and his mother, the Black Panther Rosamund Candle. She reads her child and Murakan is intently staring at her, which catches Cyan's attention. I don't think he's doing a good job at hailing. Siren asks where he found the cat and Jin says he adopted him. Siren likes the choice of wording in Jin's answer and asks the name of this pet. Jin comes up with one on the fly and says Nababi. This immediately gets the rage of one of his elder siblings. How dare Jin use a Run Candle name on a meerkat, and they even curses Nanny for raising him this way. And I'm not gonna take no gilly slander. They got to that she-bag. Siren tells everyone to chill and asks Jin why he would give his cat this name. Jin gets off philosophical and says it might just be an animal, but this is the first life that he has adopted. He wanted a name that bared a heavy weight. Siren likes to answer but asks Jin if he knows the consequences of the name he has chosen. Jin says that he does, and if something ever happens to this cat, he will need to pay the price. Siren laughs and says Jin sure has a talent for making enemies look at how your siblings are staring at you. But Jin just says the coldest shit I have ever seen, and says he also has a talent for killing his enemies. 10-year-old by the way. Siren wears a wide grin and tells everyone to be prepared to handle the youngest Run Candle. A time skip to about 4 years later. And Jin is now 14 years old and a 2-star knight. His mentor finishes the training and thanks him for the hard work. She is confused on why they're only doing morning training. But the mentor continues that today Lady Luna is scheduled to train with him. His mentor is introduced as Garson, and Jin finally remembers that Luna's training was scheduled for today and goes to eat. Before meeting her, Karen asks if today finally he will eat with his sibling, but Jen isn't interested in his fake family and would rather eat alone. Another student sits beside him named Bell Schmidt and hands the young master some food. Chun thanks him and thinks to himself that soon Bellum will be robbed of his right to be a cadet and expelled from the academy. He is just a 13-year-old commoner and regularly chats with Jin, although he is the only one that seems to be talking. Jin tells him that he said the same things he was talking about yesterday and tells the boy that people look down on him because he rambles on all the time. Bellum has taken him back and Jin tells him to stand up straight and have some backbone. Take pride that you are a guardian, knight cadet in Moon Candle. Bello gets to discourage since his grades are the lowest and he isn't even a 1-star yet, but Jin tells him if he compares himself to other 13-year-olds, he will be considered elite. But Jin just thinks to himself again that no wonder he was kicked out in his past life. He's way too agreeable. But how did this swordie go to the Heman clan? Another sword master's guilt and become the Empire's loyal hound and walking the path of a mass murderer after hearing Bella was part of the Imperial Guard. He was shocked in his past life, but also saddened to hear that he ended up committing suicide. He cannot leave Bell off with his fate. Jin offers him some of his food, saying that he's eaten enough and Bellum is ecstatic and happily ghouls down. The extra food generally relates to the boy living an unfortunate life, saying that only once is enough. He's gone to help Bell up this time around. The scene shifts to Jin roaming the hallways, noting that his spiritual energy is at 2 stars, his mana is at 4 stars, and his swordsman sip is at 2 stars. Things are going well, and in 2 years he can bump his swordsmanship up to 3 stars. Before he can think about anything else, he arrives at Luna's training session. Oh yes, Big Sis is back. She says that the training will be the same as last time, and tells him that even though it's the same, he needs to tackle it differently. Use your mind's eye. Jen doesn't seem to understand this training and wants to figure out a way to get out of this regiment. Jen continues a training on trying to grasp how to use one's mind-eye balloon, tells him that this is the most important trait for wielding a blade, and tells him to open his eyes. Jen thinks to himself that this skill is at the stage of enlightenment for 7-star knights and higher, and she's already trying to teach him it as a 2-star knight. The part that is holding Jin up is the fact that the mind's eye looks a lot like scattering aura. But Luna doesn't use aura in this training, so he can't grasp it completely. He tightens his grip and puts some faith in Luna's training. There might be one day where he comes to understand it all. Luna tells him what the training for today is done and he can go back. And even though Jin thinks he isn't making any progress, Luna notes that he's doing far better than she ever expected. Jin has an unparalleled focus and posture that is not seen in 2-star knights. In a couple years, he will grow the master of this technique. Jay is now seen in a group exercise with Bellum and some other cadets. Garson is leading the kids and tells them that today's spar will be racking up points, and the more points someone can get will be a fast track for them to become a guardian knight. He looks towards Jin and says today is important for him as well. His mother said if he can defeat the top 10 cadets, he can move up to the intermediate classes next year. Jin is happy with this news but just looks towards Bella, who is visibly nervous. Jen just sighs saying that he's going to make sure he's not exiled. But the boy does need to show some confidence. Garson signals for the start of the sparring exercise and tells the group that the 10 best among them will challenge Jin. Training begins and Jin looks over at them. None of them are half bad, they aren't KD'd for nothing. We shift towards the end of the training and Garson selects the 10 best. Jin quickly dispatches the first combat and thinks the record for this is 8 combatants in a row, so adding 2 more shouldn't be an issue. He also notes that the one he should look out for most is Misa Milkato, who is also elite and is recognized from his past life. The spar with her will be the most important one for today. They smile at each other ready to engage, and Misa leaves at Jin with the overhead slash, which is blocked. Jin notes that she has gotten stronger, but is still manageable. The only issue is he needs to fight 8 more people. If that's the case, he needs to end this quickly. He fires a barrage of strikes that takes Misa off guard. This isn't a normal combination that Jin usually uses and he's using a barrage of simple strikes rather than complex combinations. Misa feels insulted by this and feels that she's being looked down upon. She just sails back at Jin saying if that's how he wants to play and starts swinging back. She wants to surpass a young master and prepares another overhead strike. But this was all Jin's plan. He baited her in and in a quick motion he breaks her sword. He thanks her for the great fight and notes that his own sword doesn't seem to be usable anymore. She finally understands that all of those blows they exchanged. Jin was hitting the exact same spot and she only lost because she lacked accuracy. She's a little demoralized but vows to get stronger. Shin thinks to himself as he's fighting the other cadets that usually fighting 10 would be quite challenging, but after that display with Mesa, they all are coming into the fight with less morale. Jin quickly dispatches all 10 combatants and Gerson congratulates him on the achievement and tells him lunch is in 10 minutes. But before this, Jim tells Gerson he has one more person to spar and calls out to Bello. Bellum is shocked and nervously shaking, but Chi tells his ass to get up here. He won't survive and run candle acting like this. Come up and fight me. Bellum approaches but is wondering why the young master wants to fight him. Is it because he's weak or is he trying to help his confidence? Jin tells Bella that he's quite tired after fighting 10 cadets, but that doesn't matter. I'm still stronger than you. That's why I wanted to fight. He charges in what reckless abandon and strikes at Bello Hez, which he barely manages to block. Bellum is trying to understand what is going on, but Jin lets off a flurry of strikes and tells Bellum that he's blocking well. Bellum sends Jin back and Jin flings some debris into his eyes and quickly goes for a leg sweep. Bellum is hopelessly defeated and whimpers in front of Jin, asking him why he is doing this. Jin asks Bello if he thinks this is really just a duel. He asks to fight him in this moment. He could have killed him and tells the boy to get back up. He's only gonna show him mercy once Bella wipes away his tears and a mysterious energy fills around his weapon. Everyone is shocked to see that Bellum is using aura. Misa tells the instructor to stop the duel. Jin might be in danger, but Jin stops everyone and tells them to keep whatever they see here today a secret. Bellum asks if this is what he really wanted and Jin tells the boy not to hold back. Bello grits his teeth and yells at Jin, telling him if he wanted to fight it, he should have did it before fighting 10 people and langers at him. The strike is heavy and Jin's sword breaks. Jin is even surprised because he didn't expect Bello to be at this level. He always knew he was skilled and in every other duel that he's had, he's analyzed his opponents and made sure to lose by a small margin. But to think he could already use aura. His incredible Della rushes back in for another strike towards Jin's broken sword. But Jin applies a little bit of that spiritual energy and meets the slash. This overpowers Bello and leaves his hands shaking from the strike. Jin uses the opportunity to get behind the boy and put him in a chokehold. Bello taps and asks Jin why he stopped. He thought this was a real fight. Does Jin just like to toy with people? He declines and tells Bello it hurts him to antagonize him this way, which makes Bello even more confused. Then why did he put him through all of this? He tightens his grip and asks why he's being tortured like this. Chin grabs Bello's sword and tells him he is weaker than him but kinder, and when he shows that kindness, he is strong but he can't survive here just being nice fella. I wish that you'd become strong enough to protect that kind heart and apologizes to him for being harsh. Everyone is touched by this display and the maids arrive with the food. Fell wipes away his teary eyes and tells Jin that he should get his food. But Jin just invites him to come eat with him again. In this touching moment, is anyone else crying right now? Is it just me? The next panel takes us to a mysterious cave surrounded by weird beasts, and Khan informs the patriarch about Jin's actions and hold up a second. Why are you just chilling in this evil-ass place? What is wrong with you anyway? Siren just laughs it off and it seems as interesting. Jin just keeps growing. He mentioned that walking the path of a dominator, Jin will still look after the weak, but time will tell if that creed has any worth, and tells Khan to give Jin his first mission. The next panel shows that on January 1795 Jin was recognized as a 3-star knight around 15 years of age. Around this time some cadets would go home for break while others train even harder, and once you get into the intermediate class you can use real swords instead of wooden ones, so a few students order their personal swords. Jin also has to find a suitable sword in the clan's armory. He's sitting beside Lady Luna. She tells him to leave the sword picking to her, but that was a month ago and Jin is a little worried, but she soon appears with this bleach-looking monstrosity and tells Jin that she invented this axe sword when she was his age. But Jin doesn't seem to be feeling it at all and Luna gets a little sad and pretends that it was just a joke, but Jin sees right through it. She sighs and goes to show him a different sword. She has thought long and hard and only one sword is forget, since he picked the Baroda at the selection ritual. This one might be the best fit and hands him a sword that even gets his attention. It's the brother's sword to the bride that the first patriarch used, the Bradmonte. It is impressed and so excited at his new sword. This is something that he would do anything to obtain. To think Luna would pick it for him. The Bradmonte and Baisada are swords with the most affinity, the spiritual energy if he picked it himself. He would have a problem with the other family members who also want their sword. But for Luna to pick it for him means a lot. He doesn't know how to repair her, but Luna says it won't be necessary, but feels Jin is uneasy around her and that makes her sad. Hey man, tell your big sister you love hero. Jin says that that's not the case, but Luna says he already caused her sadness and you'll have to mend her big sister's heart. She tells him to close his eyes and start the training. Jin already knows what she will say, but Luna grabs his shoulder and tells him to engrave this into his heart. While his other siblings constantly fight to crush each other, remember that you do have siblings that love you. Please don't make your big sister sad. And Jin quickly apologizes. She only wants him not to be lonely like she felt growing up and urges him to get back to training after it's done. Jin quickly rushes back into his room to show Merton his new sword, but without even looking. The dragon tells him to put it back because he still lacks the spiritual energy to control it. G needs to be at least 3 stars and spiritual energy to use it, which frustrates him since he feels so close to breaking this 2-star barrier. As Jin is rambling on Mura, Khan gets enraged at the boy's cocky attitude. These are not swords that anyone can use. 3 stars is just a minimum, just use it as a regular sword until you're at least 5 stars. Jin isn't pleased with this since he isn't patient and asks Murata what if he becomes 5 stars by the end of the year. This further enrages him and he grabs Jin by the head, telling him that that's impossible. He's only saying these things because he cares about Jin, but suddenly Jin snatches the book that Merida was reading. But Killy interrupts the two and tells Jin that Jerson is looking for him. Usually he would come in person, but he sent Gilly saying that it's urgent and Jin needs to come to meet him. The instructor assigned Jin to his first mission and he will leave as soon as the break is over. Jin thinks that this is around the time he should expect this, since he is a 3-star swordsman after all. He tells the tooth to wait for him patiently and he'll be right back. He adds into the room with the other cadets and Garson welcomes him. This mission has been assigned to Jin and the 9 beginner cadets. They will be split into 2 groups, and it's noted that it's a scouting mission around the southern border of the Zan Kingdom. The marked area is close to the territory of the White Wolf tribe. Jen thinks that this isn't a place to send beginner cadets. Something seems off and at top of everything it's been assigned much sooner than usual. This is a difficult first mission. It's almost like the patriarch did this on purpose, but Jin has a glare of determination. He will show his father what he's made of his creed will never waver. 4 days later the group arrives and the main goal of this mission is to look for the Ha to the Sand Kingdom's Bill clan December Bill. Once the group arrives it will set up camp and split into teams to commence a search, and once a day each team will send 1 man back to give a status report. Those are the orders Jin gave at the start of the mission, and Jin is seen conversing with Fellow on the wildlife that they encountered, and Jin orders the cadet to go towards the 13th zone. He then orders the rest of the cadets present to go as well and thinks to himself that something has to be off. This mission is going too smoothly. Is Jin missing something? The local beast men mistake the group for beggars and offer them some fish, and look at these cute guys. Jin accepts and vows to return the favor. As Jin is pondering his next move, Bello returns with some news. The second squad was ambushed. Jin asks for details, but the squad dispersed and retreated. They were targeted by humans, roughly 3. Jane analyzes a situation and there might be more than just 3 combatants. He calls for Eddington and David and tells them to go look for the enemy and to report back, but to not engage. Jinan rushes to the site of the ambush, trying to make sense of what's going on. Why would they attack the 2nd division instead of the 1st where Jin is located? Whoever it is, Jin will make them pay. They arrive at some human footprints with a blood trail and Bellum assumes that the 2nd division is dead, but Jin tells him not to get too hasty. There is no sign of corpses or flesh. Looking at the footsteps, Jin concludes that it's only 1 ambushed. One of his cadets signals him that she found some used bandages. Jin puts the pieces together, and the 2nd division stopped here to check wounds, but immediately came aware of a 2nd ambush and fled in a different direction. Jin sends 2 of his cadets back and calls Bella to come with him. They approach some members of the 2nd division fighting some strange soldiers. Jin hides behind the tree looking over the battle. He signals Bello to strike on his command and prepares a dagger with spiritual energy. Doing this increases the offensive power of his dagger, and he launches one into the neck of one of the soldiers, and Bello dashes on top of the other, slicing his back. He asks if his men are all right, and they said the enemy has taken Misa. He orders them to retreat and recover, and the man on the floor is still alive and begging for his life. Jen thinks that he's somewhat sane. It's unlikely that they are related to Zipfeld. He gives this man 2 choices: give Me all the details of this ambush and only one of your men will die here today. Keep your mouth shut and all of your comrades will die, Jin says. With a menacing look, he swears the truth of his words on his clan's name. The man yields, not being able to do much else, and tells Jin that he's part of the revolutionary army known as Kinslow. Jin immediately recalls his past life. This was a terrorist organization that was still active up until his death. The story of them in that time was this group killed Zan's emperor and became known as pillaged and murderers in their name. They claim that they're revolutionary, but their interpretation of it is quite extreme. Jin asks the man why he attacked Run Candle cadets, but he responds saying that he's too low ranked to know. But he doesn't have info in the main camp. But the camp is stationed at isn't far and there is about 24th star knights and magicians. Jin asks one more question. Why did they take Mie? The man says his orders were to capture all female cadets. This was needed for their declaration of revolution. After hearing these words, Jin is enraged and kills the man. He asks how long ago Miso was captured. Jin will go further but tells his other cadets to go back and recover and send word to the main house. The cadets try and flee with Jin that this is too dangerous. How can he possibly handle 24-star knights in magicians? Jin agrees that it isn't ideal, but a son of Run Candle cannot sit idly by in the situation and tells the group that he will not take no for an answer and puts Bell up in charge. He rushes into the forest hoping to save his friend. Jin has been running for hours thinking on the situation. How can he deal with the enemy numbers even though he's a 3-star swordsman, 4-star mana and 3-star spiritual energy, and he has been growing fast. But it still isn't infeasible for Jin to take out 20 of them at once. Rescuing Misa is his only objective. He needs to fight as little as possible. He prepares a spell Seismic Sense and Dualcast in pursuit. The combination of these two spells highlights a path virgin to take that follows the enemy movement. As he is dashing in, he is ambushed and a couple spears are hurled at him. Two men jump out of the woodwork, but since no one is around, Jin can start using his magic. This catches a man off guard and the mag in the back prepares a fire spell and yells for his men to step back, but Jin throws a spell of his own to nullify its activation. The mage switches to an ice spell, but Jin rushes in his necklace, activates nullifying this spell as well, and he swiftly kills the mage. He deals with the ambushes and curses these bastards who took Misa. They're looking down on the cadets, not even trying to hide their tracks. The Kinslow organization has a clear chain of command. So it's likely all the things that they plunder are distributed by ranks, and the low-ran soldiers wouldn't dare touch things that are requested from the higher-ups. So Jin has one chance to save his friend. He's nearing the camp and will need a distraction, so he prepares a fire spell in his hand and sets the forest ablaze. Then prepares another magic circle pointing towards the sky. The men at the camp see a large wildfire and immediately run to try to put it out, but they fell for the trap. The leader of the group curses his useless soldiers and Chi notices that this must be their leader, and he's the only smart one among them because he recognizes that this is a trap, but before he can tell his bozo soldiers, Jin stands menacingly behind him. He dispatches a leader and finds a key on his corpse. He goes into the main building and through a basement entrance finds Misa. As soon as he unteases her, however, some noise is heard in the building. Mi tells him if the situation becomes too dire, please Jin, save yourself, but Jin doesn't want to hear any of this. They exit the building and they see enemy soldiers dead on the floor with claw marks around their bodies. This must be the work of the beast men of the White Wolf tribe. And we get a close-up of an absolutely terrifying wolf soldier. Mesa tries to buy them some time, but Jin whacks around the head, knocking her out. The wolfman curses the useless humans who can't even put out a fire and asks if Jin was the one who did this. He says that he did and he is the son of Siren and asks the name of the wolfman, but the beast just smiles after hearing the name Run Candle. Before we get into the fight, we see a flashback to a few days before watching some of Jin's independent training with spiritual energy. As he's gathering the energy around his sword, Marika appears out of nowhere and drop kicks Chen, asking what the hell he thinks he's doing. Does he want to die? Why is he not following his directions? He told Jin not to activate the sword. It's still too early. Ooh, a little foreshadow in here, the first boss battle. I'm excited. The wolfman is also excited for his prey to be an offspring of Run Candle and introduces himself as Quado Tur, a warrior of the White Wolf tribe. This tribe is said to be bred for battle and slaughter. An average adult wolf's power is about 6 stars. They are famous for hating the moon candles because the first patriarch killed the great white wolf Javier, who is worshipped as a god. Jen knows it's impossible to run. Now he has to confront this beast. The wolfman yells powerfully and wants to offer Jin's corpse as a tribute to Javier. He asks Jin if he will fight honorably or die. While running, Jin coats his sword with a white essence and vows to fight with honor. The beast lunges in hammer in hand and hits the ground with an intense force, leaving a crater behind. Chen steps back, but the wolf is hot on his trail, preparing another swing that Jin is not ready for. He barely blocks the strike with his sword and parries the strike back. He thinks to himself that he has a lot of tricks that he can use that are typical to ruin candles. Dependent magic and his spiritual energy. He thinks dependent is too valuable to use in a situation like this. If he can't deal with this Sidar wolf, he is not worthy to achieve his ambitions. Also, his 4-star magic won't be strong enough to pierce the wolf's skin, and if people come to investigate, they're going to see signs of magic. This only leaves one option: spiritual energy. Jin blocks another heavy blow from the wolf and thinks to himself that the only way he can win is to activate his sword. The wolf admires a run candle sword, but it doesn't quite match the black sword symbol, but it's sturdier than it looks. The wolf sends another overhead smash at Jin, and Jin tries to put all of his power into activating his sword. He's had a taste of it before, but just as the wolf is coming down on him ready to end his life, a darkness fills the area, robbing the vision from the wolf he is unable to see, and in this moment of hesitation, Jin vertically slashes his opponent. Up until now, Jin never knew why his clan's emblem is black, but now, his sword is enveloped in spiritual energy which has in turn turned it black. So he finally understands. The wolfman falls to his knees defeated, still not grasping what just happened. Jin can't stand up straight after such an intense fight. But all of a sudden, the backlash from the power erupts in his body, causing him immense pain. All of the negative emotions he's felt from his past life flood into his mind. An image of Murikon appears in front of him saying that he tried to warn him if a brat like Y awakens the sword. Without enough spiritual energy, he will suffer from spiritual energy congestion. He tells Jin to wake up and he better not lose his mind. Now he has more things to accomplish. Jin collects himself and casts spiritual energy release, creating a small circle around him. It's hard to breathe, but he needs to focus and he calms his nerves. He begins to draw in all the surrounding shadows and he succeeded. He gasps for air, wondering how he made it out of that. So this is what Marathon was talking about. He feels off like his body is overflowing with spiritual energy. He begins to stand up and there isn't any more problems, so he should take Mesa and go, but notices another person hiding behind the rubble asking to be spared. Jin asks him if he's part of the Kinslow group, but this is actually the person that Jin was sent to look for. Bill from the Zon Kingdom. This is just textbook MC timing. I swear. Jin explains the situation and the man is relieved that he's finally being saved, and this whole timeline totally forgot about the guy. This man will never forget Jin's kindness for saving him. If me wasn't kidnapped, he would have never found you, girl. But he doesn't need to know that. Jenin asks how the man was kidnapped in the first place, and he said he followed his dead lover who died 2 years ago, but for some reason he saw her, as if she was still here, and even heard the sound of her voice soon as concerned by this news. And it was probably the work of the Gaston fellow that we were introduced to some chapters before, and his transformation ability Sember was probably kidnapped for money. But what is the connection here? This is the second time Jin has run into this man since he left Storm Castle. Something is not right and he needs to get to the bottom of this and see what kind of person Gaston really is. Somber thanks Jin for listening to his sad tale, but Jin is only thinking to himself on how he will beat the Transformer. Somber is crying since he finds out Jin actually called to reinforcements for him, and he will forever remember this meeting, and if Jin needs anything, please let him know. Some time passes and Jin returns to the Garden of Swords. He greets Skill, who is ecstatic that he did so well on his first mission, but out of the corner of his eye, he spots Morika's dark expression in his cat form. He knows he didn't listen to his words yet again, and the cat Murikon bites his hand, causing Jin to launch him into a nearby window. Jin asks what the hell that was for. Uraha told him repeatedly not to use shadow energy. Release. How many times does he have to tell him? He transforms into his base form and starts swinging around. Murikon demands to know why Gilly forgot the strawberry, and Morikon wants smoke today, and also asks Jin why he risked his life instead of using dependent. Ledge tells him that the dependent was too valuable to use in that situation. This just infuriates Murikon even more at the fact that he risked his own life rather than using a pennant. Soon wants to know how America knows he released the sword's power. America says it's obvious from the fact that he's now a 4-star spiritual energy user. Jin thinks that that must be the reason he was overflowing with energy. But to think he went up a full star. Martha explains that there was 11 people who have gone through the same shadow energy intoxication and 9 of them have died. So Jin is among the 2 to ever survive. Jin asks if the other one is Tomar Mora. Ka shakes his head, saying that even he would have died from that. You see, Muraka was the only other person to survive. This takes Jin aback. Jin waves his hand, so technically him and Murata are the same, so he tells him not to worry about him. He doesn't want to experience that pain ever again. Merrick K wants Jin to be punished, but Gilly quickly moves to prepare the young master's meal, which makes the dragon incredibly jealous. We shift to a scene of two people talking of Jin's accomplishments, doubting if he indeed killed a white wolf. Even thinking that it was an imposter, and Run Candle says it could be possible if the white wolf was one of the weaker members of the species. The woman she is talking to is Emu, and she still can't fathom that as 3-star Knight bested a 6-star wolf. Our favorite twins, Haytona and Daytona, entered the room, and Jen killing the white wolf is believable to them since they know what kind of demon Jin really is. But this is not why they came here tomorrow. Jin will be joining the intermediate class, and if he does, it will be the end of the twins, as they think of an image of a devilish Jin and tells the boys to be honest with their sisters. Are they really that scared of Jin? They try to deny it, but Anne gets serious and with killing intent tells them not to lie. Anne asks how as a big sister she can help. The sisters offer 2 of their best slaves to the twins, telling them that they will be quite useful. We shift to the intermediate class and the man goes over the rules. There are 3 to 5-star knights here, some of which are brand new and some who have been here for 10 years. Me and Anne would always take a few cadets out of each class and treat them like slaves. They gave twins 2 of these slaves to put Jin in his place, but tell them that they better be successful. Jen finishes washing up thinking about his class tomorrow. If he wants to use shadow energy properly, he needs to get to 6-star swordsman chi in the next 5 years. 6 stars means that one is a remarkable swordsman. 7 means that one's a master, and if one can reach 8 stars, they become a regularity. With over 2 billion people in the world, there isn't even 100 people who have reached 9 or 10 stars, and only one has ever surpassed 10 stars. The Genesis Knight Siren vows that he will surpass the Genesis Knight in his life. But for now, he has some problems to deal with, especially since the Toner brothers are in his next class, and he knows from experience that his brothers will turn on each other and need to be in check. The only way for Jin to survive this class is through crew strength. He needs to dominate the intermediate class. The next panel shows Jin entering his mother's quarters, asking why she has called for him. She congratulates him for completing his mission with amazing results, but according to her reports, Jin has declined the suggestion to change rooms. She wants Jin to use a room for the future patriarch that has been empty since Joshua has used it. She wants Jin to use it now, but he refuses. It might have great importance, but at the end of the day it's still just a room and the implications will be a hassle. Rosa taps the desk and tells Jin that he can leave, but thinks to herself that she can't tell whether Jin has no greed or is the greediest of them all. The moment he would have accepted that room, all the swords of his siblings would have been pointed towards him, but he's still a target no matter what. He must have realized that this was a test. Jin meets up with his cadets and tells them tomorrow he will leave for the intermediate class, and these cadets will be seen as Jin's faction. They might experience taunts and torments, but were we not? Jin will never let any of this slide, and those things will cease once he conquers the class. Until then, you guys must stick together in groups of 3 and refrain from going out alone. The group accepts the order and we shift to the intermediate class. The teacher is Candle, an 8-star knight and Siren's little brother, who looks pretty sick, mind you. He uniforms a group on the new transfers they have and the 27 people who dropped out except for murder. Any situation or incident should be solved amongst yourselves. He yells for the seniors to tell the newbies what they always preach, and they scream, "Run candles do not need the weak." They chant this several times and Jin notices the tone is supposed to demoralize the new recruits. He spots the Toner brothers and notices the cadet near them that looks like a veteran. There's no way they could have recruited him themselves. He wonders if Mi and Nun are behind this. Jin knows that they want to break him as a newbie, but he has no intention of going out like that and walks towards the Toner brothers, basically making them shit themselves. He aims a slash of his sword towards the veteran cadet, slicing his arm off, putting him on the floor in agony. He thinks to himself that the ones who should be Hazel is that stop me. He tells someone to call a medic and she is his sword, What the hell kind of savage move was that? Daytona yells why the hell Jin just did that, is he insane? But Jin ignores him and asks the cadet for his name. Grabbing his now stump of an arm, he says Kaj Romeo. Jin asks if he knows why he removed his arm. Daytona is annoyed that he's being ignored, and Jin looks towards them coldly, telling the boys not to interrupt his conversation. If they want a duel, they will have one. Later, Altona yells and accidentally reveals that Kagan was one of his cadets, but immediately tries to cover his mouth. But the information has already slipped. My cadet, you say so? This man is part of your faction, big brother. The surrounding cadets realize that this is a battle between brothers. As Jin looks, the two Dao Zed looks over and smiles. Understanding the situation while trying to teach Jin a lesson, they instead were taught the lesson. Due to their words, Kaj has become a part of the Tuss faction publicly. So what Jin did was not a random attack sort of justifying his action, but instead of partaking in the battle for hegemony, he did something really bold. Jenny yells. For all the cadets' attention, you all may point your swords at me or even try to ambush me, but know this: the moment you show hostility, I will not hesitate to cut you down as I just did. Zed calls out for Jin and asks him if he thinks he can behave this way in front of him, but Jing just says he does. Z asks how come, and Jinli's saying that he didn't just challenge the Toner brothers, but he also challenges Z. Zed prepares his blade full Afwa, interested in what Jin just said, and asks the boy to explain himself, and depending on his answer, he might have his head removed.